All right, what did I do this week? This week, did a couple different things. All right. First one is I spent a lot of time trying to figure out why a data set was not tying to the general ledger. This is something I unfortunately spend a lot of my time doing, but it's become less and less burdensome over time because I have started to accumulate a data set of sorts of things that go wrong with this code. It's honestly code that you can't write in most companies because it's able to get customer item salesperson level data to tie back to the general ledger so that finance and sales can be speaking to the same numbers. And it's a long piece of SQL code that touches various different pieces of the database to make that work. But it goes a long way to have it, and so it's worth keeping intact. And so I have a whole system that ties it out. And now I can essentially automate all pieces of that using AI. And when things pop up, because it's kind of a moving target by its very nature, when accounting decides they want to change how they do something, the code has to move with it for that to work. And so over time, it diverges, but the more and more I work on the same problems and the more and more I log it with AI as I tinker with it, it becomes easier to dive in and start tinkering with it each time. A set of skills that I've developed and just a set of scripts, stored procedures, and Claude just generally understanding the problem because we've worked on it a lot goes a long way. That's one thing. Another thing that I worked on this week is a Power BI license reclamation project. We have a lot of users. The way we have our workspaces set up are all based on Power BI Premium. And so if you want to be able to use our report layer at all, then you need a Power BI Premium license. And slowly but surely, we're shifting over to Fabric, which is a different cost model. But until we're all the way shifted over to Fabric, we're kind of stuck with the case where some users just do not quite get the utilization out of that $25 a month, but they still kind of need it to digest the reports that they do need access to and do need to read, whether it's monthly or quarterly. But I developed a process that queries all of the underlying Power BI usage data, and it only lets you go back 30 days with the API. And so you have to accumulate this data set over time and store it yourself if you want it to be longer than 30 days. I've been doing that for the last little over a quarter. And now that I have enough data on who's using what, I can see who's not using anything at all. And I've basically developed a series of Python scripts and a SharePoint list to notify users that you haven't used your license, we're going to take it away. There's sort of 3 series of warnings they will get where they have the chance to keep their license if they just reply. But alternatively, it offers other solutions because these days you don't really need Power BI to get the information you need. There's literally hundreds of ways to do it. And agents are kind of opening that up in a really big way that people have definitely not fully started to appreciate yet, but it's my job to teach them to appreciate it. And so I've been spending a lot of my time figuring out how to use different ways, Copilot, Claude, etc., to deliver information to people that maybe don't want to learn Power BI. And as sad as it is for me to say that, I love Power BI so much, it's just not for everybody. You can't force them to want to love it. And a lot of old users are used to Excel. Excel has been around a long time. Excel might become like books where it's just one of those technologies that you can't kill it. It's like a cockroach. And to a large degree, I understand because Excel is a great tool to start doing data exploration. And now that you can use Claude in Excel, Copilot in Excel, to start picking apart what a spreadsheet's doing and telling you in the first place and modeling it out just from a, hey, tell me this, that, or the other thing. it's becoming easier and easier to pull analytics into Excel and still have that as the deliverable, but have the data modeling happening somewhere else upstream. And I think that model works for a lot of people. And you can use Power BI semantic models to do that still. You don't have to get off of Power BI entirely. Your end user can not know that Power BI is involved at all. You might have to tell them to some degree because there's a data pipeline, timing aspects that if they understand, that's better. But you can build all of that as documentation right there in the Excel sheet if you have everything built properly. So it's a great time to be alive. As a business intelligence analyst, we can do just so much more now. General theme of what I wanted to talk about today, and those were two different examples. Top down, model the problem first, then dive in and build what you're trying to build. That's one way to use AI. I would say in general, that's the easier and less frictional path for most people to use it. But for the tinkerers out there that are like me, that have always been trying to understand how things work, that are already really messy and cluttered at the granular level, and building from that stage up, that also works. And I think you can kind of go back and forth between both methods. When I was tying out the big bad, we call it that, piece of code that ties the GL to the sales customer item financials, that was a tinkerer. I spent a lot of time just saying, hey, write me diagnostic scripts, help me understand the problem. And I sort of had the higher level problem mapped originally, but generally speaking, I dove in as a tinkerer, tried to figure out how the nuts and bolts were working, building a skill when I found something out that I didn't want to lose memory of in the future. And then once I had it figured out at the granular level, then I built a system around it and logged what I'm doing each time so that each time I go back to work on it, there's a memory that I created essentially in place. And that's just the tinkerer's way of using AI. You dive in, you tinker with the problem, you build its own memory of it because you worked on it with it, and there's ways for it to just document itself. And what you worked on, it will kind of naturally do that for you, but it also helps to prompt it to do it. And you build your own little AI data system over time as you use it more. Like you can get more and more leverage out of. And so that's, I would say, the tinkerer's way of approaching AI. But then you can also just tell it to help build a model of the problem, top-down approach versus bottoms-up, and figure out the topology of your problem, which eventually you have to do no matter which way you go. You still have to think about the structure of the problem. And the more clearly you're able to think about that, the more leverage you will get out of AI. It's really about being able to articulate the topology of the problem. Once Claude understands that, he can help you quite a bit. So you can always start top down and approach it that way too. Let's see. Copilot's getting better and better. There's a new Cowork. Cowork is finding its way everywhere. Everyone loves Cowork because Cowork feels like the real agent solution that people have been craving with AI. And Copilot, I love it, but it has felt like it's fallen a little short of Claude and some of the other models up until Cowork. Cowork is really cool. You can just hook that sucker right up to a Power BI report, front end report now, and it can do lots of magic with it on a scheduled task. It can start to create really detailed emails that can get distributed to groups of people. And again, back to what I was talking about earlier, there is just a new way of delivering business information to the business users. And you want to get on top of this before other people do, because it's all going to come down to this. All of it. It all comes down to that. How do you deliver information to the business users? That's the job. And agreeing on a shared language, which is still the hard work. You still have to build the foundations, have the proper data structure and foundation, to overuse that word, in place, a common language of metrics and definitions that the users agree on. But once you have that, the world is your oyster. And getting to that point, it's starting to feel really exciting. So, all right, that was a longer brain dump than I expected. But once I got going, I think it went pretty well. All right, peace out.